Welcome to the Swift Accelerator 2022 program briefing. To check if you're in the right place, you are here to find out more about the Swift Accelerator program. And my name is YJ. I'm the instructor for the program, and we've been doing this for 5 years now. This is our 5th year anniversary of the program. So this briefing is going to be about a few things. We're going to tell you a little bit about the company that runs this. Right? You might have seen the name Think Academy. That's my company, and we've been running this program for the last 5 years. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the instructors. We have 2 instructors for this program. My co-instructor Jia Chen is here as well, and we'll share a little bit about ourselves and our experience as being part of the program. And this part is really special for Jia Chen because he's really been a part of the program since the very beginning, like me, but in very different roles. So he'll tell you more about that afterwards. And I guess the last part is we'll tell you about the program and how to apply. So let's get started. So we are Think Academy. You might have seen the company name as Tinker Tanker. We run a couple of other things. We might have been in your school for one reason or another. Please say hi if you see me around. Right, I love to meet our students. We are a coding training company, right? Apple Consultants Network partner. Our aim is to inspire, delight, and wonder with technology as educators and crafters. So we essentially just love making things, and we love to help folks learn how to make things as well. We've been around since 2011, so that's more than 10 years ago by now. And we've made apps, right? So one of the things that we've done is we've made apps. I'll tell you more about this shortly. We've made some curriculum. We've taught, thousands of hours to thousands of students in many, many schools and organizations. We've made our own kits. Some of you might have used our microbit kit in your school. And I think this is the last part, which I really enjoy a lot myself. We develop people, and we do internships, we do mentoring, and I will tell you more about this as well. This is actually relevant to what we're doing. So I'd like to share a little bit about our journey as a company. We actually started off building software. So I'm not sure how many of you remember back in 2011, right? I'm assuming that if you're a student, I think that was when maybe you were like pre-primary school. But in 2011, this was really at the height of the app boom, right? People were asking around to build apps, right? It was a huge gold rush for building apps. So when we started the company, that's what we wanted to do. One of the companies we started was called Spikify, right? Which is one of those. The aim was to get folks to hire cleaners in the online platform, right? It got acquired, so that was kind of fun. But I guess my caveat here is that we were a small part of this. We were the people who built the technology for it. And when it got acquired, the CEO went to join HelpLink, which is still around, right? The company's still around. And I think I got like maybe $100 check from this whole thing. But it's kind of nice to be able to say, we built a company that got acquired. Along the way, we built some other things as well. Here's a little extension that we built, right? Because we love shopping online. And when we shopped online, there used to be a problem, where Amazon wasn't in Singapore at the time, and we had trouble figuring out, how to get their things to ship here. So we built a little plugin, right, to help us check. And this was fun because, we got some referral credits and things like that. And now they're in Singapore, so, we don't need this anymore. But I think the point of this is that we wanted to see something happen, right? We had a little need, we saw a problem, we saw an opportunity, we saw a challenge, and we thought that this could be something that we could build to solve a problem for ourselves. We also started building our own apps, right? And I'll tell you a bit more later, but a couple of us who started the company, we actually used to be teachers, and we thought, you know what, let's build an app for teachers, right? So let's actually build an app where if the teacher goes into class, right, this app will know contextually which class they're in at that time. They will know who is in that class at that time, and they can, just tap on the app and see, oh, this kid over here, I need to call their parent after class, right? Or this kid over here owes me homework. I shouldn't forget the next time I step into the classroom. So you can see over here is a very retro design, right? Pre-iOS 7. And this is actually an entire app that we built and released, but we also learned a lesson along the way. The lesson was that if you build it, it doesn't mean that they will come. The customers will be here, right? So this is how much we earned from this app. We earned $458.69 over about 2 years. I don't know about you, but that's not enough to sustain a company, right? That any kind of company. So I think we used it to buy some snacks for the office and things like that. And that's actually something that's relevant to Swift Accelerator, because we're not just going to teach you how to code, we're going to teach you how to get your message across, try and figure out your audience, try and figure out how to pitch yourself, right? Do some proper storytelling, right? Tell people why you think they need your app. Here's another app that we built, and this is actually the 10th year that this app has been around. It's also a bit of a retro design because I'm afraid we haven't gotten around to updating it. Sorry. This is called IC Photo, and the key thing about this app is that we built it to address a need of our own. So, not to give away our ages or anything, but the other co-founders and I, we hit the age where you have to replace your IC. You have to update your photo so that you don't look like a small kid inside your identity card, right? So we got a letter from the Immigration and Checkpoint Authority saying, hey, you have to submit a photo, and this photo has to be a soft copy photo, right? They didn't accept hard copies anymore. And it has to be a certain pixel size, 400 pixels by 514, right? So this is fairly challenging for many adults, right? Because not everyone knows how to use image resizing tools. Not everyone knows how to move their heads into the right place on the screen. And when I sent it in, I thought I got it right. I sent in my photo and they rejected it. They sent it back saying, hey, you need to show more shoulder. At which point I was like, I'm pretty sure you don't want me to dress like that. But I think they meant that my head was too far down the picture. So we realized that this was a perfect thing that we could do with an app. So this was even before the word selfie took over in the mainstream vernacular. And we built a little app for people to take useful selfies. So we just had a little guide. Your eyes should go here, your mouth should go here, and you just take a photo. It will convert it to the right size, and you can send it off to ICA. It got to the point where ICA actually has a whole list of apps on their website. They say it's not officially sanctioned, but these are some apps you can use. And we've gotten a few 100,000 downloads along the way, so that's pretty cool. We didn't make this a paid app, so we haven't earned very much money from it, but that's fine, right? Because the satisfaction from this comes from seeing people use it. I still remember one day when I was walking around a shopping mall and I saw this young mother trying to get her 3-year-old toddler standing against a wall because of the nice white background at the wall. And she was saying, okay, come, just stand here. All right, we'll take the photo. And I kind of peeked over. It's a bit rude, but, forgive me. I peeked over and I saw that she was using our app. And that was really cool, just seeing something that you built out there and making people's lives easier. I thought that was pretty awesome. Okay. And I think one of the side effects of this was our very first iOS app. This was our very first iOS app. We built it in 2011, right? The iOS software development kit had come out for a couple of years at that point. We knew how to program, but we had a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to program in iOS, right? We had all the equipment, we had all the background knowledge, but we watched all these videos. There were some very nice videos from Stanford at the time on how to learn iOS, but it just didn't click, right? It just didn't click until we started building something. When we started building this, we were like, oh, I need to solve this problem. I can't get this button to behave. Then we'll go online, search for solutions, and that's how we did our learning. That's how the things actually started clicking for us, right? So that's another theme of the Swift Accelerator program. We want you to learn by doing. All right, so this is the new version of it, which will be out sometime in the unknown future. We will figure this out at some point. Right, but yes, we have a new version coming out. I know the design is 7 years out of date, but we will get this out there, and maybe my colleague Jiachen can tell you more about this at some point. Here are some other apps that we've built, right? This is a little stickers app, so just a fun little thing that you can do, right? So an app doesn't have to be something that's, super useful, right? It doesn't have to be something that, helps teachers or helps parents take photos of their kids or things like that. It can just be a fun little sticker app. And this is something that we built and released, and we use it way too much if you ask anyone who messages me. Here's another app, and this is another app that we've built along the way. This app is called Guest Day. It's not a traditional app where you buy it and download it and use it. I'll tell you a little more about it using an origin story. You know how superheroes have an origin story, right? So this was in 2009, even before the company started, right? So it's me and a couple of my friends, right, the co-founders of the company eventually, and we were at the age where many of our friends were asking us to help them at their weddings, right? And for the adults, you know, there's an age where you go through where pretty much, you know, at least half of your friends are getting married and you have to attend weddings every week. For the kids, you'll get to that point eventually. So we had a friend who was a good friend of ours, right? He asked us, could you help me with my wedding reception table? So we're supposed to sit there, you know, register people, use pen and paper. There were no iPads at the time, right? So we thought maybe we could use a computer, maybe we could do it electronically, maybe we could build an app, right? So we built a web app. There was no iPad at the time, right? So we built a web app. We had a server, some syncing, and all kinds of routers, and way complex solution, right? He doesn't speak to us very much nowadays, but I like to think that's because he's moved to Canada, and I don't think he moved to Canada because he's avoiding us, right? But I think it worked, right? I think it worked, and that's how our piece of software got started, right? And along the way, you know, we designed it for weddings, right? Because, you know, we at weddings usually people go up and say, "What table am I at?" You know, I'm here, and they'll try and you try and help them out by searching through a list. So we made that electronic. At the same time, after a while, we realized when we started doing this commercially that wedding clients are not repeat clients, right? You generally wedding couples will not hold another wedding anytime soon to help your business very much, right? So we kind of pivoted to events. Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, events have kind of gone away, but it was a fairly profitable business when we were running it. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. So we built an app, we put it on iPad because iPad is great for this kind of thing. We just loan out our iPads and folks can actually just use them all around. They can register people, all their registration numbers will be synced up, and it's a generally happy experience for everyone, right? So these are just some of the apps that we've built. I want to tell you a little bit more about these because these are some of the possibilities that we hope that learning app development will open up for you. All right, so moving on to the next part, which is about me. Hi, that's me, right? So my name is YJ, right? I'm an Apple professional learning specialist, which means that I work with a lot of Apple technologies. I've been doing this program for the last 5 years. Just by way of background, right? That's me, right? As you can see, it looks exactly like me. So I mean, I guess I was lucky, right? I did fairly well academically. I got a government scholarship. I got to study at Stanford in Silicon Valley, and it was there that I started picking up on teaching code, right? And I'll tell you more about this in a bit, right? When I came back, right, so I went overseas, I came back and I taught at Raffles Institution, which I don't know if there's any RI boys here, right? And that was more than 15 years ago, so you wouldn't have seen me on campus for that, right? And afterwards, I moved on to the Ministry of Education to do some planning work and data analytics and, you know, fun things with stats. And sometime around 10 years ago, I started this company, right, with a couple of my good friends. Okay, this part's not important, right? What's important is I want to tell you a little bit about how my journey was like learning to code. Okay. And that actually started way back in the 80s. Again, you know, I'm revealing my age here, but that's fine. In the 80s, my parents signed me up for one of these enrichment programs. This was at, I think, Informatics. I think they're still around. I think they still do adult training. So I went to this, you know, place with a whole bunch of CRT monitors, like you know, like those big chunky monitors, not these nice flat screen LCDs you have nowadays. And we learned how to code with this little character on the right hand side of the screen. You can see the turtle somewhere in the top right hand corner, right? If you see the right corner of the star, that's a little turtle, right? And you kind of tell it to move forward, move backwards, draw shapes, and do stuff, right? And this is a logo, right? This is a logo. It's an environment that was designed by Professor Seymour Papert, right? He's a renowned education technology specialist, and it's amazing, right? I just really clicked with this and made all kinds of fun things. From there on, right, in the 90s, when I was in secondary school, my friends and I would just, you know, just do weird things with our computers. And again, this was back in the day before graphical user interfaces became commonplace. So we set up our little games menus so that we could actually launch our games quickly rather than typing them in as commands in the command line. And just coding up these little games menus took a whole bunch of time that in retrospect, we could have used to actually play the games. But I guess that's the part of fun, right? The tinkering to get something working, right, is part of the fun and is not necessarily the outcome. Okay, on the right is this little gorillas thing that used to come standard with every DOS machine, and we would just fiddle with it, experiment, do weird things. This was essentially Angry Birds, right? For just to provide some modern context, each of you would enter an angle and a velocity, and you would throw a banana bomb from one side to another. And what we did was we would do weird things like, we could make nuclear explosions and all kinds of weird stuff just by fiddling with the code, right? The cool thing is that this was not an actual game. It was the code for a game. So we would fiddle with the code, see what we come up with, and, just entertain ourselves that way. Life was simple before social media. When I went to university, I had a chance to learn programming, and this was the Stanford CS106 series, and it's very well known. They've actually, it's a very popular course, and not just because Stanford is in the middle of Silicon Valley, but I think 70 to 80% of every freshman cohort will actually end up taking the intro programming class, and that's even folks who are not doing engineering. So I had a chance to go through that. I thought that was really, really fun. I even, volunteered to be a teaching assistant, and I helped develop some curriculum for the university. And that was tons of fun, right? I got to do all kinds of cool things like, you know, running classes, talking to the profs, and learning from them. So that was great, right? And the languages that we used at the time were all over the place, right? We started with C, which is a language that you might not start with nowadays, but at the same time, they abstracted things into this nice little environment on the right called Carol, where you can just move around, right? You can pick up beepers, put down beepers, and this is very, very similar to what you might see in Swift playgrounds nowadays, which I'll tell you more about in a moment, right? So, and then when I came back, I spent some time in MOE, I spent some time in RI teaching. And the good thing is that when I went to RI, they were nice enough that, being an independent school, they said, well, you know what? You enjoy teaching code? Here, right? One of the computing teachers just left. Instead of teaching science, why don't you go ahead and teach some coding? And I was really happy, right? I could come up with my own curriculum, teach all kinds of cool things, experiment with things. And since then, that's inspired me and my friends to start this company to teach code in all kinds of different languages and frameworks. So what's changed along the way? So I've given you a bit of an overview of my learning process from the 90s until now, right? I think one of the really cool things is that it's so much easier to learn to code nowadays, right? You can go on YouTube, right? You can pull up this video. This is Yuma, right? He's one of the youngest worldwide developer conference scholarship winners, and I think he's is he 18 or 19 now? He comes up with all these like cool little YouTube videos to teach people how to code. He's a prolific app developer. Just come up with something new every half a year and release it and tell you how he made it and things like that. Right? There are all kinds of free books. Apple has all kinds of free books to teach you how to build apps. There are all kinds of websites out there, right? Hacking with Swift and all kinds of other things. You might also know that if you're a National Library Board member, you have free access to Udemy Business, right? You can just actually go online, go to nlbsg.udemy.com or something, and you have free access to Udemy Business, which means a whole bunch of courses are there for you, sponsored by our government. Fantastic stuff, right? So that brings up the question, right? Why spend a whole bunch of hours with us to learn? Okay, so I'll tell you more about that, but just keep that in mind, right? It's really easy to learn on your own nowadays. Okay, and what else has changed? Well, it's really easy to get your software out there, right? When we built IC Photo, we had no idea that we could have reached hundreds of thousands of people, right? There was a point where we were number 2 on the App Store. I'm still a little bit sore that we never reached number 1, right? But we reached number 2 on the Singapore App Store. I think it was after Mr. Brown tweeted about it or something like that. And that was really awesome. And this was with zero marketing. So we didn't spend any money putting up advertisements. It was just purely word of mouth. And this has been the case for all kinds of app developers out there, right? And because of that, people are just building apps and seeing their numbers going up. I've heard stories of how folks put up their games and it would just be getting downloaded over the years without them doing anything, right? Of course, they have to keep it compatible. They have to update it if they really want to attract more users. But it's just really remarkable how easy it is to get users. Back when I was a kid, right, back in the 90s, if I wanted to buy software, I had to go to Challenger, which is still around, right? And I had to pick up this box from the shelf, and the box would cost $90. It's a bit like games, right? Your Xbox and PlayStation games, a bit like those. But software was like that, right? If you wanted to buy a PC game, that's what you had to do. Now, if you want to buy a PC game, well, you go to Steam, right? If you want to buy an iOS game, you just go to the App Store. You can subscribe to Apple Arcade and get all the unlimited games that you want, right? And if your parents don't want to authorize it for you, you can like shove a phone in their face and they'll authorize it by accident or something like that. I do not recommend doing this, right? Don't tell anyone I said that. Okay, but it's so much easier to get your apps out there. And what this does is it opens up a lot of possibilities for anyone to be an amazing app developer, right? So this is Flappy Bird, right? If you hadn't played it back in the day, you probably heard of it. It's a very simple concept. You're supposed to navigate this bird through the pipes, and this bird keeps falling down because it's a terrible bird. And this little app wasted millions, if not billions, of productive hours worldwide just from people trying to get a high score, right? I remember stopping a class because one of the kids had started playing, right, while I was teaching, and he had reached a high score of about 150, and people were just gathering around him going, oh my goodness, he's like, he's gonna get a super high score. And I was like, yeah, you're right, we should probably stop the class and watch this guy for a while. And you know what? This was made by a 14-year-old at the time, right? A 14-year-old Vietnamese teenager made this, right? He released it for free. I think he put in some ads. It earned him, millions of dollars. But that's an aside, right? It's we're not guaranteeing you overnight success. We're not guaranteeing you'll become an app developer millionaire or anything. But the possibilities are there if you get started somewhere. Which brings us to why join this program, right? We're telling you that, hey, you can get started, right? There's all kinds of resources out there. You can learn on your own. Why join this program? I guess one of the key things is that there'll be someone to actually guide you. That's us. That's me and Justin. All right. We'll include things like quizzes. We'll include things like assignments, and some of it is just by the fact that you signed up, right? You've committed to it. That's the first step, right? Because I don't know how many of you have tried learning things online, right? I've tried like signing up for hundreds of courses from Udemy or edX or Udacity or things like that. I finished maybe like 3 of them. So whereas in school you go there and you are kind of forced to learn, right? We're not going to give you exams, right? We're not going to grade you, right? But just by showing up, I think you are making a commitment, and we are hoping to honor that commitment for you. All right, we'll give you a whole bunch of resources, and I think one of the really key things is the community that we have built up. So let me tell you a little bit more about the program at this point. I've told you a lot of background, right? It's been half an hour and I've told you so much background. Okay, so the Swift Accelerator started 5 years ago. We've had about 30 plus schools, right? We've had 200 plus alumni, and we've released about 45 apps. All right. We say 45 plus because we're not sure if any of them have gotten taken down, but we can check. Right. So what it is an intensive talent development program. Okay. And this is sponsored by IMDA, right? Supported by Apple. And the aim is for folks who have a really strong interest and passion for coding and app development to spend 8 months with us, right? To learn to code and also to apply storytelling and design thinking principles to design, build, and release an iOS app. Okay, so it's first launched in 2018. This is our 5th year running, and it's fully subsidized for 50 successful applicants. Okay, fully subsidized, no cost to you, and we will help you along the way in making sure that you build an app and release it with a team of people. So this is what it looks like, right? So over 9 months or 8 or 9 months, we've had lecturers and speakers from industry. We'll have sometimes we have game designers, sometimes we have folks from different roles at Apple to help come and talk to you, right? They'll go through the whole process to uncover problems and come up with solutions. You'll practice pitching and you might make a video. All this you can find out more from our website, which we'll show you later as well. Okay, what will you learn? You learn app development, of course, right? You'll be coding in Swift using the Xcode IDE and building with the iOS SDK. You'll be using modern solutions, right? We have switched over to the very latest iOS SDK, the latest software development kit, which is using Swift UI. And like I mentioned before, it's not just about building it, right? Doesn't mean because you build it, they will come. You also have a chance to learn a bit of design thinking. And I know many of you, right, will have had some design thinking experience in schools, but this will be in the context of building and releasing an app. So very specific with some goals in mind. You'll need to tell people about your app. That's where you learn about storytelling, and you need to make your app look good, right? There's visual and UI design. All right. So all these are things that we will cover. And that's great because we have a lot of time to cover them. The curriculum will be based on these free books that are available online, right? Developed in Swift Explorations and Fundamentals. And but we've adapted it for secondary schools, and we have made it, we've updated it, right, to use the very latest in Apple technologies. Okay, so here are some things that you build, right? You learn to code in Swift. You build what's called a clicker. You press the button on the screen and the number increases. You build a to-do list, right? Maybe once, maybe more. You build a quiz, a Pokédex, and maybe some nonsensical things like this, like a emoji ping pong physics launcher simulation. Maybe, right? I can't guarantee that we still want to do this, but it's fairly hilarious when we do it. Okay? And at the very end, you will work with a team, right? Not by yourself, with a team, and that's important. You'll work with a team to publish your app on the App Store, right? So this is an actual app stats that we got from one of our currently published apps. Okay. All right. So these are some of the apps that we have seen over the years. Okay. So there's a bunch of to-do lists. We'd like to avoid that if we can, but there's some very interesting concepts. There's one to help kids brush their teeth. There's one which is getting folks to learn about scams, right? There's one which is getting folks to learn about music. It's got all kinds of different music tools for you to use. Okay, so you can find out more about these on our website. And if you join our program, we would love for your app to be a part of this. IMDA is also sponsoring certification for this program. So there's an industry certification, and this is the App Development with Swift Associate Certificate. This is run by Pearson VUE Certiport, and you will be trained on how to, go through this, get the certificate, and this is an industry recognized certification. And once you have it, you can put it in your resume. If you have a LinkedIn, you can publish it on your LinkedIn, and maybe it'll be helpful in getting you internships or scholarship applications or university applications in the future, because it's something that not many students will be doing. This is optional, right? If you don't feel like taking a test, it's an MCQ test, that's fine. But you will get a certificate of achievement, right, from IMDA. All right, so at the end of the program, we'll have a Swift Innovators Summit, right? For the class of 2021, this is actually happening next week, right? It's not a public event for now because of safe distancing, but when it is, we actually run workshops for the public. You can showcase your app to the public, and it's a fun way to share what you've learned with people. And finally, I just want to take a quick note over here, right? This is how some of the teams in 2020 actually managed to do their projects. As you know, in 2020, we had a whole lockdown and all kinds of things happen. The great thing was at the end of the year, the cases were in the single digits. We could invite some groups over to the office to do the class. And I actually had a lot of help for this, right? I couldn't manage so many groups at one time. So what we actually had alumni from previous batches come in to help. And some of these alumni are on screen. And what they did was they mentored each group. They actually talked to each of them, got them through, thinking through their ideas, making sure their ideas were doable, solving little code problems for them. And what they do is they form an invaluable part of the community of people that you will work with. All right. And some of these alumni, we love them so much that we offer them internships, right? Some of them are working for us right now, and before they start their university or before they start polytechnics or after NS or things like that. And yeah, there's one alumnus in particular I want to highlight, and that's this guy over here, right? So this is Jia Chen, right? Jia Chen is an Jia Chen has been a part of this program for the last few years, and I would like to, take a break. I would like to invite him to share a little bit with you about his experience as part of the program. Jia Chen.
Okay, thanks, Margie. So I'm Jia Chen from the class of 2018, and I guess 19, 20, and 21, and also 22, because I've been back every year. But okay, so YJ shared a lot of information. So let me just summarize what Swift Accelerator is. In Swift Accelerator, you learn the code. You learn a bit about design thinking and empathy. You learn some presentation skills, and you hear from a bunch of industry speakers. It's also, this year-long program. And with that said, let me just go through my experience within the program. So, now looking back from, like, I'm now in Polytechnic, now looking back at, I believe, 4 years of Surf Accelerator. So, yeah. So um, I joined the class of 2018 in 2018, and I mean, this was the first day of Surf Accelerator. I mean, we had drones and we had droids, and it looked like a lot of fun. I wouldn't know, I wasn't actually there. I was on a school trip at that time. But I do remember coming in on the second day and, walking in about halfway through the lesson because I was late, and after arriving back, and it felt very like confusing, and it was very awkward because I only knew there were like 10 people from my school, but I only spoke to like 3 or 4 of them. So I was like, what are these people doing, and why are these people speaking in this weird language that I don't understand? And I mean, through like talking to a whole bunch of other people, because the advantage of Surf Accelerator being this like year-long program is that, unlike a normal workshop where you might be there for a week for a boot camp or something, Swift Accelerator is where you kind of form bonds and you meet a whole bunch of like-minded people, like the person that's right above me who's doing some capture the flag competition, um is not even from the same secondary school as me, and we're working on this project for Monday for the summit. And being able to just work together with a whole bunch of like-minded people who are like from the same age as you is kind of useful, especially when competing in competitions and stuff. And so in 2018, I managed to publish 2 apps, so Portable CL, a Chinese learning app, and Tasks. So after that, we use Tasks as part of our Swift Innovator Summit. So this is me a lot smaller in 2018, next to YJ and Shannon, who is my other teammate who worked on this. And these opportunities help them, especially if those who are like looking towards like, oh, I want to like use this in my portfolio and stuff. These opportunities are very useful because all of these projects, because saying, oh, I built an app in secondary school is kind of impressive compared to, hey, maybe I tinkered around a bit. And we got picked up by the Straits Times and stuff. But I mean, those are quite nice, but the thing I really enjoyed wasn't really just like being on the news and all, but these the opportunity to just help out and just mess around, because this was the first day of the Swift Accelerator program in 2019. And I believe the conversation went something like this. So YJ was like, hey, we have to prepare an orientation activity for the class of 2019 because it's their first day. And we have about 20 plus iPads. And Ray Young and Ray Young is another alumni, went, hey, wait, there are 20 iPads. Let's have a trivia app, and we'll have the iPads be like this buzzer that will connect to this real-time database so that when they click, it'll just send this request out, and then we can all see who clicks first and stuff like that. Yeah, we actually did that, and we did it all in one night. And being able to just watch students just like play and interact with our app live was kind of both nerve-wracking because we weren't exactly sure if it was going to crash or not, but also very rewarding because you see people like enjoying what you just built. And in 2019, in like mid 2019, um there was this Channel 8 feature where I was struggling to speak Chinese for about 3 hours straight before they trimmed it down to a 3-minute segment and adding a lot of cutscenes so that it sounds like I can speak coherently. Yeah, and it talked about this the portable CL app I built, and I guess all of these opportunities are really useful in terms of like developing a portfolio and stuff like that. But in yeah, into later in 2019, YJ was also just like, hey, we want to motivate these groups to like build their apps, because 2018 we had less than half the class publish an app, but we want a lot more this time. So why not we just build this leaderboards app, and maybe we'll also connect it to a real-time database, and we'll have this live progress bar so that we know how each group is doing, and have it color coded and all that ridiculous stuff. Yeah, we actually did that. So we built a custom leaderboards app in 2018. I believe one of the interns at Tinker Tanker eventually worked on it and made it slightly better. I'm not sure how it is. I technically work here, but I don't know. And in late 2019, we also had the Swift Innovator Summit where me and several other alumni actually came back and just helped out, just helped to push the groups because I guess you also find it really fun to just help people and just watch, like just help people solve problems because it's rewarding just looking at them being like, oh, I finally solved this issue after 3 hours thanks to your help, kind of thing. And another thing in 2019 is that um um Apple CEO Tim Cook came down to Singapore and we had the opportunity to just showcase our app. So a couple of us managed to present our app. So this is me presenting tasks and portable CL to Tim Cook. And we got to like I guess it's it's kind of surreal to be able to hear from this guy that you've been seeing on a whole bunch of keynotes for very long, and then you're just like, wait, this guy is physically here right in front of me, kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. So in mid 2020, I worked on because I had O levels and stuff. So I used app development as just a way to unwind and take my mind off of O levels. So I released this um school announcements app called SST Announcer, and I participated and won the WWDC Swift Student Challenge. So WWDC Swift Student Challenge is this. It's the successor to the WWDC scholarship, and it's this competition where you use Swift playgrounds to build, I guess, a mini project, and that can maybe tell a story or something, and the folks from Apple will review it, and then based on like written responses and stuff, they will give you they will say whether, oh, you actually won or not. But this was 2020, so it was kind of like the sad years where the conference was virtual, so I didn't get to go to San Francisco. But in late 2020, I joined Tinker Tanker as an intern, and most of the time during my internship, I was just working around with like various different projects, mostly Swift related, like our new Swift UI curriculum. And uh, in early 2021, I was like, hey YJ, can I be the assistant trainer for Swift Accelerator? And for some reason, he said yes. And in the middle of the year, we were like, hey, you know, if we're able to implement every single app in Swift UI, what is stopping us from just switching the curriculum over to Swift UI? And I guess that was like the turning point when we were just like, we can um we we can just keep trying new things out and just keep evolving with this thing, because why are we sticking to something like UI Kit when it is clearly a lot more difficult and the learning curve is a lot steeper compared to something like Swift UI? And so this allowed me to just like add a whole bunch of stuff that maybe I've been mildly annoyed by for the past 3 years, and then I was like, you know what, I'll just have this all implemented into the curriculum. And another thing is, teaching a 9-month long course actually starts to get really stale and boring. So during this period, due to COVID-19, we couldn't have flag raising ceremonies. So as a joke, YJ was like, hey, what if we had a flag raising? And I was like, yes, I built an app already. But yeah, then we were like, okay, so for the first lesson we have a flag raising. Then second lesson we added animations. And then third lesson we made it in augmented reality. And then the fourth lesson we built it in Swift UI. And then after that we connected it to a Discord bot so that Discord is a messaging platform. So that students can like send messages to raise the flag up. And eventually we will have it such that they can compete in coding competition. So somewhat like hacker rank or something, where you can submit code onto Discord and then it'll execute and test it for you before, if you get it correct, it erases a flag. And eventually it became just a leaderboards app. So every group was represented by a flag and then it would just raise up. I mean, this is kind of like, I guess this was kind of a nice conclusion to the flag raising app, like, because that was kind of what started it in 2019. But all of these like flag raising apps and stuff kind of taught me that, hey, it's actually, while yes, building functional apps that make sense is rewarding, the mildly ridiculous, like just really funny apps that make no sense in hindsight are also very rewarding, because I would never have had the experience to like try out, okay, how do I link a Swift app to a Discord bot without doing this? And these kinds of experiences kind of teach me a lot. Like how YJ mentioned earlier from IC Photo, where basically the easiest way to learn is by doing. So this gave me an excuse to do a whole bunch of things at once. So in in the middle of 2021, I joined Ngee Ann Polytechnic through early admission exercise, which meant I mostly relied on my portfolio. So I included a whole bunch of projects from Surf Accelerator that I worked on. And so I managed to secure a spot before I actually even attempted my O-level. So that was actually quite nice. And I guess it gave me a sense of security in that sense. And And in 2021, I also decided, if I did it in 2020, I should also do it in 2021. So I also participated in the Swift Student Challenge in 2021. But unfortunately, it's also a very sad year where I couldn't go to San Francisco. So yeah, but um, despite all that, I still worked on some other projects. So this is Friction. Um, so I believe it was several months back. YJ and I were actually sitting in this room exactly, and we were like, "Hey, um, how do we like write on the screen so that students can kind of see as we teach virtual classes?" And then um, YJ found this like $2 app that you can connect with Sidecar so that you can mirror your display, and then you can use an iPad and Apple Pencil to draw it. It was really clunky, not fun. So as a joke, I was like, hey, but this is technically possible, okay? Like we can communicate over the cable, we can have the iPad, can draw on it and then you can have it on the screen. And I did some research and then I was like, yeah, wouldn't it be more funny if I like I did everything and then suddenly on Monday morning I would be like, hey YJ, I finished the entire thing and here's a minimum viable product. And then so after 2 weeks, we actually published the app for real. So that is Friction. I mean, it is a paid app. I'm not sure how much we made. I'm not actively tracking, but we aren't really like publicizing it that much, except for maybe this. And um just being able to like tinker around and basically build stuff allowed me to just experiment a lot. So that's why right now we have 5 different PDF generators completely incompatible with one another. They are just completely different ways at solving the same problem. Uh yeah, and there are 2 automated graders. Actually no, there are 3 because there's a new one just for your badge, just for your application form. And we have countless flag raising apps at this point. And I mean, yeah, so this has been kind of like my internship experience, just building stuff and just trying out a whole bunch of different things and like different approaches to the same problem, especially with the PDF generators and the graders. Now, let me go back to the slide I started with. Okay, so yes, Swift Accelerator teaches coding. And yes, it teaches design thinking and empathy. Yes, it teaches presentation skills. And yes, you can hear from industry speakers. And it's a year-long program. But that's not the main takeaway. I mean, it's also not that like having like 3 separate certifications for Swift because we needed to test out the certificates before actually like asking the students to do it. But it's really just the people. Being able to meet like-minded people from across like a whole bunch of students that are like-minded and also passionate about technology. So like over the past 4 years, we have been able to bring together a vibrant community of like 200 plus students. And for me, I had the opportunity to work and meet with a whole bunch of people outside my secondary school. Like otherwise I would just be in this like small group of maybe like 5 to 10 of us don't who are like from the same school. But now I can work with a whole bunch of people, from like DHS, RGS, and yeah. And whether it is, building this like random trivia app hastily put together overnight for the class of 2019, or basically just participating in hackathons with a bunch of equally crazy people, and like meeting a whole bunch of different people like YJ. I would have never like actually interned here if I never took part in the Surf Accelerator program. And so I guess this program is really about the people you meet along the way. I mean, most of them might not continue pursuing Swift, but that's fine because not everyone is being an iOS developer, because all the skills taught here can be used in almost every other industry, like presentation and stuff. So with that, I guess back to YG.
Right. Thank you so much, Jia Chen. I think we're going to overrun just a little bit, but this is the really important part, right? So just we'll finish up real quick, and there'll be a little bit of time for Q&A. At this point, if you have any questions, hang on. Let's finish this last part. But if you have, write them down somewhere. You can put them in the chat first, and we will address them at the Q&A at the end. All right. So how do you apply, right? So hopefully, you've stayed through the entire presentation. You heard from me and Jia Chen, right? How do you apply? You want in. Okay, so here are some requirements. Okay, you have to commit to the training schedule. We mentioned this is an 8-month program. I might have mentioned it's 180 hours, right? So it's kind of long. Do be sure that you can commit to the training schedule, because we have had students who, joined us and then halfway through they're like, oh, I have so many other things in school. I can't do this anymore. I mean, we won't force you to continue. All right. There's no obligations. We're not going to make you pay for anything. All right. But we want to make sure that everyone who can commit is a part of this program, right? And if you just sign up and if you never show up, that's taking away a spot from someone who might have been able to do it. Okay, so we'd like to seek your understanding for that. You should hopefully have an access to a MacBook. All right. If you don't let that stop you right now from applying. All right, but this will be helpful for the actual process, because we're not running this on iPad. We're running this on MacBook with Xcode. All right. So yeah, just a quick note: we might be able to help you, right? If you don't have your own Mac, but we're not sure how many we have access to. Okay, so but it's okay. Just apply first, but keep this in mind. All right. The members of Infocom and Media Clubs get priority because this is an IMDA program, right? This is an IMDA sponsored program, so they are interested in promoting the Infocom and Media Clubs. All right, so please let us know when you apply if you are a member of such a club. Don't worry if you are not. Please continue to apply, and we will do our best, right, to accommodate everyone. You can apply at this URL, right? And it's of course on our website, swiftinsg.org. Fill in your particulars, your contact info, your teacher info. There's a 14-question quiz on programming. Okay. If you have no experience in programming, go through some online tutorials first, right? If you're absolutely not sure where to start, let us know. We can help you out a little bit, okay? But I think many of you would have had experience from things like Code for Fun in primary schools, or if you're in your Infocom club, surely you've done a bit by now. I think that should be enough. You do not need to go and read the entire 2 Swift books before you attempt this, okay? Although if you do, maybe that'll give you an advantage. I'm not sure. Okay, so it's multiple choice, single choice, and short answer questions. And there's a few short essay questions, but it's a video essay. Right, let me tell you a bit more about this now. There's a bit of a requirement for you to go through a series of tutorials, right? So pardon the clickbait YouTube thumbnail on screen, right? But this is our SwiftUI video series, okay? If you watch this, you'll get a sense of, our teaching style, right? The content that we're going through, because this would be the very first thing that we go through in Swift Accelerator, although we will probably speed right through it because we assume that people have done it. There's a little practical you need to do. The whole set of videos shouldn't take you more than an hour to watch and do, I think, right? Your job is to do it up and record it and send it to us. Tell us a bit more about yourself, because what you're making is something called a name card. It's got your name, it's got your photo, it's got, some interest and things like that. So it's a chance for us to get to know you, right? So when you apply, you can tell us more about yourself through this method. You do need the app on an iPad or Mac, and if you don't have either, right, and you can't get access to one, right, you can just go ahead and borrow it for an afternoon. I think that should be sufficient. But if you really can't, right, please email us. We will try and help you out, right? We will try and help you out over the coming week. Okay. And the application, again, in 3 parts, right? There's the code with 14 MCQ questions. There are 5 sections on different things, all right? And the practical and video, watch the unit 1, create a 1-minute long video introducing yourself and your final product. And the last part is your portfolio. Include any supporting documents or links or whatever you think will be relevant when we review your application. For example, if you made an amazing website, send it in. If you contributed to an open source project, send it in. Okay. If you made all kinds of cool videos, send those in, but maybe upload them somewhere. If you upload them anywhere, please make sure that they are accessible by us, right? Without having to log in. Okay, so open a private window and try out the link before you submit. We might not be able to come back to you to ask, hey, your link didn't work. All right, we might just need to skip right over it. Okay. One last tip, please save a backup copy of your responses in case your browser crashes or you reload your page and lose everything. All right, that's happened to people before. It's very sad. Okay, this is the schedule. Right, this is the schedule. It's available online. Right, you don't have to copy this down right now. You can feel free to take a screenshot. All right, but it's available on the website. We do ask you to attend 80% of the sessions at the very least, right? Especially the early parts, right? Later parts, if you notice, are a huge chunk that all happen at once because you're working on your project, okay? And you can manage your time yourself around then. If you can't make it and you work with your team, you can figure out how you want to do it on your own. You have had plenty of experience doing school projects, right? It's going to be like that. Okay, but early on is when we teach you the content. If you can make it for most of those, it will really help you later on. All right, it runs on Saturdays and holidays. The tentative plan is to run this online, right? Because with 50 packs and the instructors and other people, we are going to exceed the 50% limit, right? So we are trying to work something out. We are trying to work something out where we can resume in-person classes. I thoroughly enjoy teaching the class in person, but I think the last 2 years have worked pretty well online as well, so it's not impossible. Okay, so just be aware of all these. The holiday classes, I know some of you will be traveling or you have other commitments, right? See what you can do about it. Let us know what you can't make it for early on so that we have a sense of this. Okay, that's it for now, right? In terms of the actual content. If you have any questions at this point, please feel free to ask them in the WebEx chat. Okay, I will go through a couple of frequently asked questions on the next slide. First thing, cost. None, right? There is no cost to you, right? If you want to get your own MacBook, by all means, okay? If you want recommendations on which MacBook to get, let us know. Drop us an email, right? We can help you out. But it's actually very easy nowadays. You can get the base level MacBook. It works really well nowadays with Xcode. Okay, location online until we can meet. We do mention that it's for secondary 1 to 3, and I just want to caveat here, Sec 4, if you are Sec 4 in an O-level program, all right, then you are probably busy, okay, during some part of the program. If you're at IP, you're probably fine. I think you have Chinese O-levels or Mother Tongue O-levels at the end of the year. That's just one day. If you're in junior college, look very carefully at your schedule. We have not optimized our schedule for junior college, although we have had folks who have asked us about it. We have not had any, right? We have had one O-level student, right? But he missed a lot of the project, but his project partner was very understanding about that. Okay, so just be aware of this. Though if you don't have an iPad, right, again, for the application process, please email us, right? Please email us. On the last item, if your iPad cannot run Swift Playground's apps, we have recorded a video in the playlist that we put up. Just watch that one. We have a workaround for you. Okay, so those of you who are using your personal learning devices for iPads, you might run into an issue with the instructions in the video. We have a workaround. We have recorded that. Okay, so on this note, I'd like to just spend the next few minutes going through the questions in the chat. So thank you to Ihan, right? The first question, well, it's a bit difficult to say. I haven't done that for a while. Okay, so Ihan's question, right? I haven't done that for a while. I would say a lot of this stuff is fairly transferable in general. Okay, SwiftUI in particular is a reactive programming language. So if you've heard of things like React Native and some other Jetpack Compose and things like that, it's not too different. Okay, what's the most intensive part of the program? I would say somewhere near the middle of the content, near around the June holidays, right before the June holidays or so, and towards the end when you're working on the project, right? Because that's when stuff gets hard. In the middle of the program is when stuff gets difficult, all right? The concepts, start escalate, they start piling up, they build on what you've known, all right? So you want to be, make sure that you can get caught up. And one thing is we do try and record the content, right? When we do try and record the lecture part of the content. So if you need a recap, we will point you somewhere, right? So don't worry if you really need to miss classes. We will make sure that you can get caught up, but you need to commit to catching up. Okay. How similar is game dev and app dev? quite similar, I would say. They are both kind of event driven. They are both in the sense waiting for the user to do something, right? Just on a pure, very high level, conceptual level, they're both waiting for the user to do something. You launch an app, and the thing will be there, okay, and it's waiting for you to tap a button. You launch a game, you must press something right before something happens, right? So to me, at a high level, I feel they're very similar, right? I do teach game development as well. I find that part very similar. Okay. Daryl asks, would experience with other programming languages help with the application? Yes, I think so. Right, I think so. We do have a Python. We do have a couple of Python questions, but if you don't know that language, right, I suspect if you have any background, you should be able to. You should be able to. It should help you with the question as well. All right. And you ask if you do not have a Infocom and Media Club, will you be able to join? Very likely, if you apply and qualify, you should be able to. Although, as I said, that we are obliged, right, to give priority to Infocom and Media Club folks. Okay, but not to worry, right? I can tell you for a fact that there have been many folks before you who have joined without being a part of Infocom and Media Club, especially if you don't have a club in the school. Okay. Uh, Shao Qi asks, must the content of the name card project be submitted by yourself? Yes, right? If you are not so comfortable submitting your photo, right, that's fine. You can submit a photo of someone else. No, don't submit someone else. Submit some about a meaningful photo, right? Because there's one part where we ask you to take a photo of yourself and just put it inside the app. Feel free to submit something that's meaningful to you instead. All right. If you rather not show your face for whatever reason, we don't need to see your face in particular. We would love to, right? We would love to just get to know our applicants, but we do want to get to know who you are, right? Okay. So yeah. Can I tell you more about the 1 minute video, right? You can find out more on the application site, right? But you do need to like scroll all the way through to the end. Essentially, you'll be asked to make a name card app in the tutorial videos. Let me head back to that slide real quick. Okay. You'll be asked to, you watch this unit 1 of our SwiftUI video series. It'll take you about an hour or so, and you can type in along the way. All right. And when you're done with that, great. You have a final product that you can showcase. If you want to extend it some more, by all means, right? But just record a video of it, record the screen, right? And then just show, hey, this is what I did. Here's what I learned, and here's some interesting things that I've done along the way. And you can tell us more about yourself. Okay, so that's what we are asking for. Okay. All right. So would a published Android app help with the application? Send it in, right? Send it in, put it in your portfolio. Okay. By all means, it'll be part of your portfolio, and we will take that into consideration. Brian, if you don't have an iPad or a Mac, right? And same for Gingit, if you do need an iPad for the application process, if you can borrow it, right? Also you need to check whether it's on the latest version of iPad OS. Okay. If you really, really cannot borrow it in time or anything, drop us an email. We might be able to invite you to drop by to do that part of the tutorial at our office. That is one contingency plan that we are working on. I cannot guarantee this yet, all right? But drop us an email so that we know. Okay. All right. I have some questions that came from the thing. Hanya, I'll get back to you. Right. What do I do if I'm unable to attend the first 2 or 3 sessions? That's okay, right? Do try and get caught up. And do try and make sure you can make it for 80% of the overall thing. Okay, if you can't make like 50 or 60%, then you can reconsider lah. All right. That's if you're still interested, you can email us. We can point you at some resources. Okay. What are the evaluation criteria? Right. The aim is to get you to pass the application test. Okay, it's not just about programming. There's a couple of questions about user interface and user experience design as well. Okay, so if you don't have much prior knowledge in like Swift, that's okay, right? Just take a look. Swift is a very easy to understand language, I would say, right? So if you have any programming experience, I think you should be fine. Okay. Do you need a computer? Yes, you need a computer for the actual program, right? A MacBook, preferably something after 2016. Okay. How does the selection work? You fill in the application form, we'll receive all the applications, and you will receive an email by the end of the month about the status of your application. All right. Tentatively, we're aiming for 30th March. Okay. All right. I have a Mac but not an iPad. Can I use it for the application? Yes, right. Playgrounds runs on Mac as well. Okay, so Playgrounds runs on Mac as well, so you can use that for but you might want to watch the supplementary video, right? Watch the supplementary video to figure out how to get it to do some of these things. It will behave a bit differently, but I trust that you can figure out how to do it. Okay, 2013 Mac, let us know, right? If you have a 2013 Mac, let us know. Okay. All right. For forming the bonds between students, yes, I think having it on a virtual platform has made it a bit harder to get to know brand new people, although not impossible, right? Not impossible. I think we do have folks coming. We do set up a Discord server for people to chat and ask questions and do nonsense, right? As Jia Chen has mentioned in his presentation, so that helps, right? I think a lot of the participation is what you get out of it, right? If you participate keenly, right? If you take part in the discussions, if you take part in the quiz, right? If you talk to folks, right, on the channels, right? I think you will get a lot more out of it than if you kept completely quiet and didn't join in the discussions or anything at all, right? So that's the case for a virtual class, right? And you know what? That's the case for any class, right? In person or virtual. Okay. All right. Okay. Can you use a computer other than a Mac? The Xcode only runs on the Mac, right? So please let us know. Okay, if you don't have one. Okay, so once again, right, this is the URL, swiftinsg.org/join us. Please apply by Saturday night, okay, 11 p.m. We might leave it open a little bit longer, but don't count on it, right? Don't count on it, okay? If you face any issues when applying, please let us know, right? You should get an acknowledgement email when you apply, same as the form that you submitted to join this, okay? Anything else, you can refer to the site or you can email us. Again, you can go to the website, look for the email address there. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. I have a quick little exit video for you. And if you have any other questions, swiftinsg.org. All right, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I look forward to your applications. And of course, if you have any questions, just head over to swiftinsg.org and you can email us as well. Thank you. Please take care and we will see you soon.